Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all doing well today. Well, I wanted to react to a video I saw from Moist Critical talking about the writers' strike in America. Now, one of the reasons why I want to cover this is because I think that I may be one of the few people that actually thinks that these writers are vastly overpaid and that the work that they do is just absolute shit. I can't think of a single project recently that would make me say, yeah, these people definitely warrant a pay raise or definitely warrant more money. No, in fact, it's the opposite. I think these people are paid way too much. I think that across the board, this type of low effort, narcissistic, woke writing in the West is killing entertainment. Um, it's interesting though because Charlie comes out and he is very much in favor of this strike. You know, he makes it very clear that he thinks that these people should get paid more money. And I think that that's interesting because I think Charlie says this because he knows that he's supposed to say it. But truth be told, I don't know if he actually believes it. Because he then spends the rest of the video talking about how absolutely dog shit some of the pieces of entertainment that we're getting out of Western content creators. So maybe he feels that he has to support it because, that's what big content creators do. They're expected to do that. But for me, I say no. I mean, you look at how absolutely garbage some of the decisions and some of the writing is. And it's like, if a project is really, really, really good, then of course somebody should get paid according to their content. But I mean, let's just start like The Witcher on Netflix. Do I think those writers should be paid, just about anything? No, I think they should be paid just about minimum wage. Their work is, I mean, I mean, do you mean to tell me that you think that the people who created this abomination of a series called The Witcher, that without Henry Cavill would have been even worse, that you think these people deserve to get paid large amounts of money? No. No, no, no. I think they get paid too much. For Star Wars, the same thing. The people who were writing the new Star Wars movies. Now, what I will say is that I do differentiate between different forms of entertainment. Like television and movies, those are pretty bad. But video games, we've seen that, like with Jedi Survivor, those writers definitely deserve a lot of money because they put a lot of thought and energy and effort into what they were doing. The game itself is evidence of the fact that there are some writers that do care. But the vast majority of Western content creators, I don't think Charlie will ever watch this video. But Charlie, maybe I'm coming at this from somebody that has become disenfranchised because I watched the Halo series. Now you can say, oh, the Halo series. There was a writing room around that. People who were part of this writing guild sat down, and it's not a small writing group. They sat down, they looked at it, they said, these gamers, these people are stupid. We're gonna remake it based on their ego, based on how narcissistic they are. They thought they were gonna remake it into something better, and I'm just here to say, I don't give a shit. These people could go bankrupt. Every time Moist Critical talked about like the effect of the strike, I'm like, that's a win. Like, oh, and the Daily Show is going down. Oh, and this show is going down. Oh, Saturday, I'm looking at that going win, win, win. And then he's like, Big Mouth is going down. I'm like, how on earth could you possibly support the? How could you support the writers? Like, I understand like artists have to stick together, but it's like we're starting to see that writers in the West are some of the most lazy, entitled, good for nothing shitbags. Now, whether they are genuinely woke or woke just to fit in doesn't matter because the result is the same. So, we're going to take a look at Moist Critical's video, and I'm going to do a reaction to it. But, Charlie, I know that you have to say this because in your position you don't really have a choice. Like you would get canceled if you didn't. But just hear me out. No, these people do not deserve more money. They're way overpaid. They are way overpaid. And if AI can create better work than them in a more efficient amount of time and deliver a more satisfying product, I'm all for that. Get these people out there. Fucking learn to code. That's my, and some people say, "Well, I don't want anyone to lose their job." I want these people to lose their job because the work they've done has been shit. It has been terrible. I'm not hating on writers just to hate on writers. I'm looking at the body of work that we've seen from Western writers, and I can't think of a single example that was so mind blowingly good that it couldn't be done without them. In fact, I can think of several examples that anyone could have done a better job. Halo is the best example, it's the biggest example, it's the most obvious example, but there are other ones. It's like Game of Thrones season 8. That's another beautiful example because that was that was that you know what that was? That was a group of writers thinking they knew better than the original creator, George R. R. Martin. That was a group of people that didn't care, that thought they knew better. This Western creator entitlement, and I just not having it.
I want to start this video off by celebrating something important that's a little unrelated to the overall topic of the video, but one that calls for celebration. So let's pump our fists and wiggle our fingers together as we say rest in peace to James Corden's Late Late Show. That's right, it's finally over. We've survived the bubonic plague of bad television. James Corden's show is off the air officially, and I also love that now we have like some classified documents finally releasing that confirms what we all knew. That nobody fucking watched James Corden's show. It was a colossal flop. It was losing $20 million a year apparently before they finally decided to take it behind the barn and put it down for good, just execute it. There is nobody in the world that likes James Corden. I've said it for years now. He's like one of the only unifying things our planet has to offer. We all have our differences, but somewhere embedded deep in our DNA is this common ground of disliking James Corden. And for some reason, his show has existed for so fucking long now. It was always a mystery, and I thought maybe I was just boofing crazy pills and like he had huge fans, but clearly not. They were losing so much money on him, and now they finally decided to stop the bleeding. It's just such a breath of fresh air. Already the world looks more colorful and less gray now that the Late Late Show is dead and buried, just put 6 feet under in its coffin. No more carpool karaoke. I feel like the possibility for our species are limitless now. It's like in Gurren Lagann when humanity goes from living underground fucking cave-dwelling troglodytes to breaching into the surface world, and then they start evolving at a rapid rate. I feel like that's where we're at right now because carpool karaoke is no longer keeping us buried.
What's the one question I get asked the most? What pans do you use at home? Well, today...
You know, that was the single thing preventing us from reaching a Type 2 spacefaring civilization. It's so nice. Now let's get to the actual topic of today's video. Enough celebrating the end of the Late Late Show. I'm sure many of you have heard about this massive writers' strike that's going on right now, where the Writers Guild of America is protesting, so they've all stopped their work in the industry at the moment. There's a lot of reasons for it, but really the primary takeaways are they're not being fairly compensated for their work when it comes to streaming services. So right now they're paid a single fixed residual that aren't tied to viewer numbers and no additional payments that come through when the show shuffles between different streaming services. An example they give is one of the writers for Jane the Virgin is only receiving 1 to 2 cents for their residual checks, which is far from the norm or acceptable. And that's because streaming content has blown up recently, and for the industry itself, it's still pretty new. So they're not really getting the compensation that they should be, especially when compared to other aspects of the entertainment industry like normal movies or normal TV shows. So streaming is still in that weird gray area where they're getting face fucked when it comes to their compensation, and now they're protesting, looking for more appropriate compensation and fairer pay for it, which I think is totally reasonable. None of these shows happen without the writers. I understand the A-list actors and celebrities are always going to put asses in the seats and make swamp-ass thrones as people are glued to it for these characters, but those characters are written by these writers, and without them, they'd be fucking flat and worthless.
Well, yeah, yes, no, there's no question about that. That in many cases, that it is the writers who give life to these characters. But I'll use Hugh Laurie in House as an example. Hugh Laurie became the role. It's like it's a combination of things, but here's my issue. It's like what he's saying is technically true. However, the writers are absolutely shit. They're terrible. You cannot give me a solid example of writing today that is across the board just excellent and on a level that deserves more compensation. What this what this strikes me as, no pun intended, is like politicians that are doing a terrible job, essentially saying, well, we've voted ourselves a raise. It's like, oh, no. It's like, no, no, no. You're doing a bad job. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I think that incentivizing higher wages and getting paid more for doing this level of shit to your work, I just cannot abide that. I don't think that's fair for the consumer. I don't think it's fair for the company. You have these writing rooms filled with these woke, narcissistic idiots. And I do bring this up because it's important. I realize that people like Charlie, they have a different view. They view wokeness like, oh, you're talking about the boogeyman again. Santa Claus. You want to bring up Santa Claus? They don't believe in it. Not really. They think it's an overblown thing, but it's not. We've seen recently that Peter Pan and Wendy is a perfect example of this. It was a rewriting of Peter Pan to make Wendy the main character. She can now swashbuckle with fully grown men. Tinkerbell is now black. Tiger Lily leads the Lost Boys, and they're not Lost Boys. They're lost peoples of, unspecified gender and racial makeup. So these writing rooms are filled with this sort of just low IQ, basic, attention-seeking scum. And so my view on it is that it's very clear that what these people in these writing rooms are doing is not working. It's garbage. And there should be a consequence for that. Now, the consequence for that is not them being bullied online or harassed or anything. It's them getting lower wages. It's them not getting paid because they're not doing as good of a job. I mean, I think that's pretty fair, don't you? I think that's pretty simple. We're not asking the world here. We're saying, hey, leave your repulsive, ignorant, stupid, tribal cult politics at the door and do your damn job. And leave out all of the woke propaganda and bullshit. No, I don't want to see Master Chief taking off his helmet and having, sex with some half head shaved, Asian, refugee. This is grotesque and it's an abomination and there's no reason it should exist. Across the board, this is happening and I think it's a major problem. And so, no, I disagree that these writers deserve more. I think they deserve less. I think that these corporations should do what McDonald's is doing. McDonald's is opening up completely autonomous McDonald's stores because people are bitching for more money. Hey, we want a higher wage. We want more money. Okay, fine, fantastic. Raise the minimum wage to $500 an hour. It doesn't matter. These companies will find a way. And with AI, I think that is a perfect solution. You can have AI learn, and maybe it is fair to have a fee. Like, hey, every time we input your work into this, we pay you a fee. Maybe that is fair. But unfortunately, none of the work that's coming out recently, none of the work that's coming out from these people is worth a damn. You're going to tell me that the writers for the Rings of Power deserve money? That company lost a fortune off of this. Companies are losing billions of dollars. And you mean to tell me that you think they deserve more money? No, the answer is absolutely not. Get fucked. You're terrible at your job. You deserve unemployment.
Worthless. The effect of writers on the actual medium is severely overlooked by just normal viewers, I feel. I've seen real brain rot takes on this from Twitter about how the writers aren't even important to the shows to begin with, which is...
They're not. Listen, if it's an original show, maybe. But if for example, if you're adapting something, like The Witcher, you've got the games, you've got the books, you've got people who know what the fuck they're talking about. So you could say, well, people that adapt those works into scripts for TV, maybe they have a value if they can do it effectively and efficiently. Like, they can take the book, like, for example, The Last of Us. The Last of Us was good, but The Last of Us wasn't good because of the additions made by the writers in the Western content. No, in fact, they made it worse, adding all of that LGBTQ and gay propaganda bullshit that was crammed into the show. And you will never convince me that that's not an active attempt to do that, because in the show it wasn't that overt. It wasn't that big of a deal. It just was sort of like, oh, and by the way, Ellie's gay, and no one really cared. This was an overt thing because Western content creators have this one singular mindset when it comes to this. So, no, I don't think they're integral. I think that stories that are written by video game writers and people who are authors of actual books, I think that they can be credited. They can be paid more if the work is worth it. But television and movie writers, generally speaking, no. I mean, I understand what he's trying to say. You know, writers do play a big part in writing some stuff, but for me, it's all merit based. I'm not looking to pay people or subsidize people that are producing garbage, and that's essentially what this is. Because most of the work coming out of Hollywood and entertainment today is absolute shit. It is irredeemable, rotten garbage.
Mind-boggling that we've reached a point where there's a lot of viewers that are unable to wrap their head around the entire show they watch is constructed by these writers. Without them, it doesn't exist, it doesn't happen, and
Whoa, that's a bold fucking claim. What show recently, a popular show, not just any show, Cowboy Bebop on Netflix, the One Piece adaptation on Netflix, Death Note on Netflix, Game of Thrones, Halo series. I mean, I can think of tons of shows that are adaptations of things that are much, much better, that would exist if these writers didn't exist, and in fact would probably be in a far better state. Star Wars, Star Trek. I mean, it's like, I understand what he's trying to say, but what he doesn't understand is that people like me, I fully understand what he's saying. I just reject it because my philosophy is different. I don't think these people deserve more money. I think they're grossly overpaid based on the low quality of work. I think that writing or any form of real don't get me wrong, there are a lot of shows that I've seen that are good. I'm not saying that all entertainment is bad. I'll give you an example. One of my favorite shows was Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. I thought those were phenomenal shows. But the reason those were phenomenal shows was because, well, the people creating it from start to finish worked on the whole thing. It wasn't like, oh, you had a writer's room and then a director's. No, the creators were hands-on every step of the way. Another favorite of mine would be House. I mentioned before, Hugh Laurie added so much to that performance. Um, you know, Originally they wanted House to be like an internet, well, internet. They wanted it to be like a medical drama. It's like the whole coloring of the show was weird, and they did this whole thing where it was like a medical show. But then they changed it because Hugh Laurie was so goddamn good. He became like the main focus of the show basically. So there are shows that really do a great job and really have a solid foundation and manage to just captivate your imagination. I was never a big fan of Stranger Things, but I know that a lot of people are. I've been told that the writing for that is exceptional, so I'll take them at their word. So there are shows that are good, but when I'm scrolling through, whether it's like Disney or Hulu or Netflix or Amazon or any of these streaming platforms, there's just generally nothing new on that's interesting. I find myself looking for old movies, older shows. It's like older television. It's like there's nothing new. Like, for example, I've not seen a show recently that is as interesting to me as a show like Burn Notice or Monk, or the USA Network used to just crank out bangers. Like, I was always impressed by how incredible the writers were back then. Like, you're like, oh, okay, Monk comes out and it's a great show on USA. It's like, oh, and Burn Notice is another great show. There like Psych, for example. I thought that was a great show too. USA used to be an absolute powerhouse, but today there's no equivalent. And so I think that that's part of the reason why. I'm looking at the landscape of entertainment and I'm just not seeing anything that's worth a damn. It's like House of the Dragon, yeah, that was, that was kind of good, but we're talking about a work that's based off of George R. R. Martin's work. It's like these writers knew their role and didn't try to overdo it. Although, even even in this, they're like, okay, well, what we need to do, we need to add, we need to make sure that, we need to make sure that there's a lot more black people. It's like even that level of stupidity because, and the reason why it's stupid to just needlessly cast black people in the show, mostly about white people, is because in Game of Thrones there are no black people really. It's mostly true to the books. And I don't mean that everyone's white because the Dothraki are definitely not white. But my point is that you have this very black race of people that's inbreeding with Targaryens, and you would think that there would be more of a presence, but in Game of Thrones they're all gone. And Joe Rogan has talked about that too. It's just needless injection of identity politics is done usually by these writers. They usually throw this in there because they're ideologically possessed and they don't understand that they do more harm to their cause by basically treating black people in this really inappropriately condescending way that they need their help. It's like, whew, yeah, that's not a good look. It's like I used to live in California, and I would hear the casual racism of people in California. It wasn't like the racism from the South. It was a racism like, oh, these poor black people. They've always been, it's like I don't want to get too far into this, but I've seen in California in liberal circles the condescension, the pure, like, we're just so much superior to them, and I see this all the time, which is why it bothers me when I see writers do things like that. Like in the Witcher series, you made Triss black. When I saw that, I honestly could not believe it. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. You really did that. You really did that. And it's like, and you didn't do it because you thought it would be best for the role, obviously. You did it because you were like, we're gonna be heroes online. We're gonna be forward. We're gonna help. We're gonna be heroes. That was their thinking. Because I've seen it before, and in the end, it backfires. Because nobody wants it. Black people don't want hand-me-down roles. They don't want roles because it doesn't make them feel good. White people don't want it because they're like, well, it's like, what is this? This doesn't make sense, and it just other races are like, well, why aren't we represented like this? It's the worst of all worlds.
And it doesn't work. So it's super weird that people are trying to belittle their role in the industry and downplay their importance, even going as far as to call this whole strike a bunch of mumbo jumbo hocus pocus nonsense and that they're entitled. It's so fucked up. Like, for some reason now people are taking up arms in order to protect billionaires in their right to exploit writers like this. I think
Oh, no, Charlie. I don't give a shit about the corporations. I don't care. I genuinely don't give a shit about the corporations. And by the way, Charlie, let me just mention, the corporations are losing money on these shows. They're losing millions, sometimes tens or hundreds of millions. Because they're investing a fortune into these shows, and they can go absolutely nowhere. In fact, let me take a bit of a detour for a split second here, and let me look up. What was it called? What was it on Netflix? What was it called? No. What was it called? Was it called Jupiter? Jupiter's Legacy. Okay, so here's here I googled it. So there are a couple articles about this. After a Twitter post brought attention to the fact that Netflix spent $200 million on Josh Duhamel led superhero series to only cancel it a month after its premiere, many users rallied to mock the platform. Um, I mean, okay. MovieWeb had a $200 million budget, making it one of the biggest Netflix's biggest bombs. So Netflix spent $200 million on this project that they only used for one season. They lost a fucking fortune with this. So I'm not here to take up arms for corporations. What I'm here to say is that writers that don't do a good job, that add in woke crap, that alter content for their own ego, that inject their own politics into it, that are lazy, that are incompetent, that are good for nothing, that don't take into account the fans, that often disrespect and insult the fans, that these people don't deserve more money. And these companies, they're not creating like here's the deal. I would side with Charlie if these franchises that were coming up, like Netflix was buying more and more, Amazon was buying more and more and more, and they were just delivering banger after banger after banger. Like, there were so many good shows that we could hardly, we could hardly watch them all. Like, there were so many great shows that, like, these platforms were just exploding in subscribers. You're like, oh my god, you got like 300 million, new followers on Disney Plus. It's like the show quality was good. the number of people coming in was good. I would say, yeah, I agree with you. But these companies are losing a fucking fortune. Charlie, I know that you're rich. But if you combined your and my income, $200 million, $200 million, think about that. Think about how many years that would take you to earn. But this company lost a fortune of that. Do you think they recouped $200 million? No. They were thinking like this is going to be like one of our long running series. And because the writing and the build up for it was so bad, it failed. And this company ate a fucking knuckle sandwich. That's my point here. It's not about defending corporations. It's about looking at the writers for what they are. And for the most part, they are woke, narcissistic, entitled failures that don't produce anything good. Again, not all. There's a very, very small percentage of very good, very successful, very talented writers. But the majority, the bulk, the vast majority are pure garbage.
It's fucking stupid. Like, again, the writers make the shows happen. It's not like your favorite actors that are in these shows go in there and fucking...
Yes, they can make the show happen, but they can also make the show worse, Charlie. Are you gonna... Charlie, are you gonna fucking sit here and try to defend to me the existence of the Halo TV show? And I will continue to bring this up until you are buried 6 feet underneath this argument. Because the Halo series existed. There was a lore, characters. There were, Charlie, how many hundreds of hours, thousands of hours are there of video of people explaining what they liked about Halo? How many videos are there of people writing essays online about what they liked about Halo? There is more access to what people like these days than ever before. So, these writers had access to everything Halo. And yet they still fucked it up to a degree that is so baffling to me that I honestly, I couldn't make sense of it unless I understood what wokeness is and the narcissism in Hollywood. The virus, the mind rot of wokeness, far left politics. It is a deep and abiding hatred of fans. It is a delusion that they are entitled to things that they don't deserve, which is why they go into something like Halo saying, well, I'm going to make it interesting because all these gamers are fucking losers. So my answer to you, Charlie, is no. And you can't defend it because, Charlie, I bet if you and I had a conversation, you would be trying to defend this, but I would be bringing up the fact that there aren't really that many good shows. There aren't really that many good movies. Charlie, did you do a review of the Winnie the Pooh horror movie? I don't remember if you did or not, but my God, we've got some problems in the entertainment space, Charlie. And I know that you like bad movies, and so do I. I mean, if they're like hilariously bad, if they're like really, really bad. Like, I know that you liked Twilight, which, by the way, Charlie, they're writing another Twilight series, but they're going to be doing it on a streaming platform. I would be very interested to see what comes of this. Because I have a feeling, Charlie, you're going to be disappointed. I think it's going to be bad, but it's not going to be good bad. It's just going to be bad. It's going to be woke bad. And Charlie, if it is woke bad, I think that pretty much cements my argument for all time. These people do not deserve more money. They deserve less money. They should be out there getting other jobs because maybe that will give them the experience they need to actually make something worth reading, watching, listening to.
improv every single one of their lines. That's just not how it works. So yeah, I do agree that the writers deserve better pay, especially because streaming has blown up so much, and yet the pay for writers hasn't grown with it. This sector has exploded, yet for some reason the writers have been left behind when it comes to their compensation. So I think the strike is totally within their right to do. I think it's a good thing. And if you don't believe me that it's a good thing, how about I just show you some of the proof that's in the pudding right now? Get ready, because I'm about to give you a fucking enema of good news.
Okay, so I just want to unpack this real quick. So he just went on to say that the strike is a good thing, that that he supports it 100%, which is exactly what he has to say. But then he switches it up and says, if, I'm about to prove to you that the writer's strike is a good thing, and he's he's about to literally make my point for me.
This writer's strike has already been huge W's across the board for anybody with eyes, because since they're striking, a lot of terrible shows have had to go on hiatus, had to go dark.
So you mean to tell me that this writer's strike is good, but not for the reason that you're saying that these people deserve more money, but it's good for the reason that I'm saying that these people don't deserve to have jobs? That James Corden is losing his show. The late night shows that are absolutely horrid are losing out. SNL is going under. I mean, it's like across the board, this is a good thing because these terrible people are no longer writing for these shit garbage tier shows. You understand, Charlie? That sort of, for all time, validates what I'm saying here.
That includes every late night talk show, baby. Every single fucking one of these late night parasites have had to go off air because, of course, they don't write their own material. They're not like real comedians anymore. They don't make fucking jokes on their own. It's all fed to them by these writers. And now that they're striking, they have nothing. Thus, they've had to stop the programs. So no Jimmy Kimmel, no Jimmy Fallon. We're getting everything fucking purged right now and on break, and it feels so good to not have to have YouTube inundated with fucking god-awful late show talk clips. Oh my god, it feels amazing. So there's already a huge W there, already seeing some great stuff from the writer's strike, some good results. But if you want the best possible news from the writer's strike, you know what else is severely affected? Big Mouth. The worst show ever produced by human beings is currently getting hammered because of this writer's strike. It is unable to continue production as of the moment, and we can only pray, have our fingers crossed, that they will just shut down the upcoming season and call it quits. Just put the kibosh on the entire series, because Big Mouth fucking sucks. Just close your eyes and envision this utopia with me. No James Corden Late Late Show. No Big Mouth. That is a serene existence. That would actually unlock the full...
Charlie, everything that you're saying here I agree with. But the reason that I agree with it is because the point that you're making is actually my own point. These people in these writers' rooms, they don't deserve more money. They don't deserve more of anything. They are awful. They are terrible. They produce shit. They produce some of the worst forms of entertainment that we've ever seen. You mean to tell me that you want to give the people that were writing HBO Max's Velma, you want to give them more money? My answer to that is no, you're fired. Get the fuck out. Never come back. I never want to see you again. Not, maybe I'm going to pay you more. Do you understand? This is very, very simple. You're making my case for me by illustrating how awful some of these shows are, and how without these writers, these shows wouldn't exist, which is good for the entertainment space, which is good for everyone, because without this filth clogging up the pipeline, maybe they'd actually get some good writers in there. If it were up to me, I'd fire every last one of them and start looking for independent talent, like people who are on the up and coming, because, well, you could pay them less, but also because their ideas are, their ideas are going to be more hungry. They're going to want to prove themselves. And when I say pay them less, I mean less than whatever this astronomical figure they're demanding. I don't know what they pay writers in these rooms, but whatever it is way too much.
Potential of our brains. It'd be like taking that pill from Limitless. We would fucking invent teleportation technology the next day. Now, even better news, even if Big Mouth does unfortunately continue, if we're cursed for another season of Big Mouth, it's the final season. So there won't be any after that, which that's great news, but it's bittersweet because we could just not have that season air to begin with. So regardless, though, Big Mouth on the horizon is soon to be finished, kaput, which is fantastic. I also forgot one other big one that's currently going dark. Another stinker. Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live is also affected by the writer's strike, so they're unable to currently continue as is.
Oh my god. And you want to give these people more money? You're fired. You're fucking fired. Get out. I never want to see any of you again. Oh, no way. No, there's no chance in hell.
So just a lot of good W's all around
Yes.
here. Now, there is more to the purpose behind the strike. It wasn't all for the compensation. There is another component to this that I think it's worth mentioning here. They're also wanting to regulate AI when it comes to the industry. AI is also exploding, and it is evolving at an unbelievably fast rate, which is, of course, a legitimate concern here. AI is already fucking wild. It is frightening how good it's gotten in such a short period of time, and it's still very primitive. It is still very early on in this technology, so it's only going to get better and more refined. So what the Writers Guild is looking for here is some regulation where the AI can't be trained off of their works. Their works would be protected, so that way the AI can't be building models based around their scripts, can't be like generating scripts of their own based on their work, and also they can't really be using AI to go through and change some of their work or undermine it and shit like that. It's just looking for some level of protection for the writers. It doesn't seem like they're trying to completely outlaw it, make it illegal when it comes to AI in the writing room, or forbid it entirely, because AI can be used as a good tool for writers as well. It's just looking for some level of like regulation or just some openness to discuss how they can utilize AI in different ways there. At least that's how I understand it. I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem like they're just trying to get rid of it entirely from the writing process. So yeah, overall, wishing the best for the writers here with the strike. From what I can tell, it doesn't seem like the powerful suits out there are really responding at all to it in any meaningful capacity at the moment. It seems like the attitude's kind of just rub some fucking dirt in it, get over it kind of thing.
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute. You people that we already overpaid to this degree are complaining that you want more money. Get fucked, you're fired. Honestly, that would be my approach. Because these people are awful. And you can see them from, like, when you watch the videos of them marching. You know, it's the same type of person. Like, you know, the Hassan Piker types. Which is just generally and genuinely awful. Just entitled, self-important, delusional, worthless, useless, not very good at their job, not very good at what they do. But, you know, this sort of, you know, commie mentality that's just pure shit and insufferable. But anyway, that'll do it for this section of the video. We got up to 35 followers on Rumble. If you haven't yet, please follow me on Rumble. I've got the link. Well, I got where to go in my new outline for the video. It's free. It doesn't cost you a dime. Helps out the channel big time. So if you feel like stopping on by, give me a follow here. We're 5 away from 40 followers. That is incredible. Anyway, that'll do it for today's video, and I'll see you next time.